The morning light filtered through the cheap motel curtains as Marcus Chen jolted awake, his heart hammering against his ribs. Something was wrong. The room was too quiet. Then he heard it, the soft sound of breathing that wasn't his daughter's. He turned his head slowly, and his breath caught in his throat. A woman stood by the window, her back to him, wearing his only dress shirt. The white fabric hung loosely on her frame, the sleeves rolled up, and her designer heels sat abandoned by the door. For a moment, Marcus wondered if he was still dreaming. But the ache in his shoulders from another night on a too-thin mattress told him this was real. His mind raced through the previous evening, trying to piece together how a complete stranger had ended up in his room. More importantly, where was Emma? Marcus had been living out of his car for 3 weeks before a social worker's concerned call forced him into the motel. "Just until you get back on your feet," she'd said, her eyes filled with pity he couldn't afford to accept. The tech company layoffs had hit without warning, and his savings evaporated faster than morning dew under the California sun. His ex-wife had made it clear she wanted nothing to do with their 7-year-old daughter once the money dried up. So it was just Marcus and Emma against the world, and he was determined not to let her down. "You're awake," the woman said, turning to face him. Marcus recognized her immediately. Victoria Ashford. Her face had been plastered across every business magazine for the past year. The 34-year-old CEO who'd turned her family's failing manufacturing company into a green energy empire. Forbes had called her the future of American business. And she was standing in his motel room, wearing his shirt. "Where's my daughter?" Marcus demanded, sitting up quickly, his protective instincts overriding his confusion. "Sleeping next door," Victoria said calmly, holding up her hands. "Room 24B. I rented it an hour ago. The night manager is watching her through the open connecting door. You can check if you don't believe me." Marcus scrambled out of bed, still fully clothed from the night before, and rushed to the connecting door she indicated. There was Emma, curled up under clean white sheets that definitely hadn't come from this motel, her beloved stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. The elderly night manager sat in a chair nearby, reading a newspaper, looking up to give Marcus a gentle nod. "She's safe," the old man confirmed. "Been here the whole time." Marcus's knees nearly buckled with relief. He turned back to Victoria, his confusion now mixing with a dozen other emotions. "I don't understand. What's happening? Why are you here? Why are you wearing my shirt?" Victoria smiled, but it was tinged with something Marcus couldn't quite identify. "Sadness, maybe. Or recognition. Because last night, you gave me the only dry clothes you had in your car, and you didn't even know who I was." The memory came flooding back. Marcus had been returning from his night shift at the warehouse, the job that barely covered the motel room, when he'd seen a woman stumbling along the highway access road. Her expensive car was stopped on the shoulder, hood smoking. She'd been drenched from the sudden downpour, shivering in what had probably been a $1,000 dress. He'd pulled over without thinking, the way his mother had raised him to do. "You need help?" he'd asked, rolling down his window. She'd looked at him with eyes that seemed to expect rejection. "My car overheated. My phone's dead. I just need to get to town." Marcus had hesitated for only a second, thinking of Emma asleep in the motel, before unlocking the door. "Get in. I've got some clothes in the back. They're wrinkled, but they're dry." She'd changed in the back seat while he'd kept his eyes firmly on the road, and he'd driven her to the one luxury hotel in their small town. She'd tried to offer him money, but he'd waved it off. "Just pay it forward," he'd said, the phrase his mother had used 1,000 times. He'd never expected to see her again. "You didn't ask for anything," Victoria said now, her voice softer. "Not money, not a favor, not even my name. You just helped because someone needed help. Do you know how rare that is?" Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the intensity of her gaze. "It's just being human." "No," Victoria said firmly. "It's being who people should be but rarely are." She walked to the small table and picked up her phone. "I couldn't sleep last night. I kept thinking about you, driving that beat-up Honda, wearing clothes that have been washed too many times, but you still stopped. You still gave. So I made some calls." "What kind of calls?" Marcus asked warily. Victoria pulled up something on her phone and turned it toward him. It was a job posting. Senior Project Manager at Ashford Industries. The salary made Marcus's head spin. I'm not looking for charity, Marcus said stiffly, even as hope bloomed dangerously in his chest. This isn't charity, Victoria countered. I looked you up. MIT graduate, 10 years of experience in sustainable infrastructure, 3 patents to your name. You're exactly what my new division needs. The charity was me not recruiting you sooner. She paused, her expression softening. But I'll be honest, last night changed something in me. I've been so focused on building my empire that I forgot why I started. My father used to say business should serve people, not the other way around. You reminded me of that. Marcus felt his throat tighten. I can't just accept a job because I gave someone a ride. Then don't, Victoria said. Come in for an interview. Compete with the other candidates. But let me ask you something. If this were about Emma, if someone offered her an opportunity she'd earned but didn't know existed, would you want her to refuse out of pride? The question hit home. Marcus thought of his daughter, brilliant and curious, asking him last week if they'd ever have a real home again. He'd promised her they would, even though he hadn't known how he'd keep that promise. Why my shirt? He asked instead of answering. Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. Because my dress was ruined, and I needed to track down the night manager to find your room. He wouldn't give me your number, very professional of him, but he told me you worked nights and would be back at dawn. I've been waiting for 3 hours. She gestured at the shirt. And honestly, it's the most comfortable thing I've worn in years. No wonder you're not afraid to be yourself. Marcus found himself smiling despite everything. You waited 3 hours to offer me a job. I waited 3 hours to thank you properly, Victoria corrected. The job offer is because I'm a good businesswoman who recognizes talent. But the thank you is because you saw a person who needed help, not a CEO who could help you. Emma's sleepy voice called from the other room. Daddy. Right here, sweetheart, Marcus called back, moving to the connecting door. Emma patted over, rubbing her eyes, stopping short when she saw Victoria. Who's that? Emma asked. A friend, Marcus said, surprised to realize it felt true. Someone Daddy helped last night. Emma nodded, accepting this with the easy trust of childhood. Mommy says helping people is for suckers. Marcus winced, but Victoria knelt down to Emma's level. Your mommy is wrong, she said gently. Your daddy is one of the smartest people I've ever met. And do you know why? Emma shook her head. Because he knows that the best things in life come from being kind, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. That's not being a sucker. That's being a hero. Emma's face lit up. My daddy's a hero. The best kind, Victoria confirmed, standing up and meeting Marcus's eyes. The kind who doesn't even know it. Later, after Victoria had left with his shirt still on, she'd insisted on keeping it, offering to send him a whole new wardrobe in return. Marcus sat with Emma eating the breakfast Victoria had ordered before she'd gone. Pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse, Emma's favorite. Are we going to be okay, Daddy? Emma asked, syrup on her chin. Marcus thought about the business card in his pocket, the interview scheduled for Monday, the possibility of a future he'd stopped letting himself imagine. But more than that, he thought about the look in Victoria's eyes when she'd thanked him. The reminder that kindness mattered, that humanity mattered, that one small act could ripple outward in ways you'd never expect. Yeah, baby, he said, pulling her close. We're going to be just fine. And for the first time in months, Marcus Chen believed it.